Don't park on Mason's dirt. You ever get that gut feeling like someone's been messing with your stuff when you weren't looking? That quiet itch in the back of your brain that says, something ain't right here. That's how it all started. Not with sirens, not with lawsuits. Just a feeling, a twitch. Now, I'm not what you'd call paranoid. I'm careful. There's a difference. Paranoia is duct taping your windows shut for fear of microwaves. Careful is installing a deadbolt on your shed after raccoons figured out how to open it last spring. I'm Mason Rowe, 32 years old, and I bought myself a fixer-upper on the edge of a sleepy little cul-de-sac in Hendersonville, North Carolina. The house was old but solid white siding, front porch, plenty of land out back. I'm a carpenter, which is just a polite way of saying I wear flannel, drive a dusty F-150, and own more tools than shirts. I like my space. Always have. That's why I bought the property. House up front, detached garage in the back, long gravel driveway to the side, and a wide rectangular lot tucked behind it all. That lot was mine. Bought fair and square. Not shared. Not governed by some overzealous homeowners association. Just plain OL, Mason Rowe-owned dirt. At least that's what I thought. First came the tire marks. Just one at first, slicing through the gravel like a scar. Then another. Then a random SUV appeared, parked smack in the middle of my lot like it had a reservation. First time, I figured someone got lost. Second time, I assumed a neighbor's friend had mistaken my lot for theirs. But the third time? Oh, I knew. I knew something shady was going down. See, I work odd hours. Sometimes I'm home at 9 in the morning. Sometimes it's 3 in the afternoon. One Thursday, I finished early. Pulled into my driveway and there they were. 4 cars. 4. Not lined along the curb. No, sir. Right on my property. Sandwiched between my garage and some lumber I hadn't gotten around to moving. 2 sedans, a Jeep, and a minivan with a stick figure family sticker on the back window. They weren't even trying to be subtle about it. So I pulled my truck in real slow, parked nose to nose with the Jeep, boxed them all in, and strolled inside to grab a cold beer in my lawn chair. Figured I'd make a show of it. A little backwoods stakeout. Maybe add some ambience with a country playlist. About 20 minutes later, they came wandering back from the nearby park tennis visors, yoga pants, a sullen teen with half a haircut, and somebody's grandmother. Like it was just another sunshiny afternoon. Until they saw me. The guy in the visor squinted like I was a mirage. Excuse me, we're trying to leave, he said. I sipped my beer. Yeah, you and me both. Trouble is, you're parked on my land. He laughed. Laughed like I just told a joke. Oh, come on. Edith said this was overflow parking. Edith who? His wife chimed in with a voice as tight as a jar of pickles. This is community space. We've been using it for months. You've been parking here illegally for months, I corrected. This is my land. Deeded. Paid for. Not HOA regulated. Well, she sniffed, folding her arms. You'll need to take it up with Meredith. She's on the board. Meredith. The clipboard queen. Every HOA has one. Passive-aggressive smile. A welcome basket full of expectations. I met her once when I first moved in. She told me the HOA didn't technically apply to my property, but then proceeded to glare at my lawn from 200 yards away anytime I skipped a trim. I let the cars out, but not before snapping photos of every license plate and filing them like I was the sheriff of Gravel Gulch. Something told me this wasn't just a misunderstanding. This had been going on long before I showed up. That night, I pulled out my deed and survey papers like a man possessed. Sure enough, me lot was 100% outside the HOA's jurisdiction. No shared easement. No access clause. Just a boundary line as clear as daylight. So I left Meredith a message. She didn't respond. Shocking. So the next week, I showed up at their board meeting like a cowboy entering a saloon. It was being held in a living room that smelled of potpourri and judgment. 6 board members sat in a semicircle, sipping wine and pretending they weren't staring me down. Hi, I said. I'm here about the vehicles parking on my land. Meredith's smile was sugary. Mr. Rowe, you're not in the HOA. Right, I nodded. Which is exactly why your members shouldn't be parking on my lot. We've used that space for overflow parking for years, she said. Before I bought it, I corrected. Back when it was vacant. That doesn't mean it belongs to you. One guy piped up. There's an understanding. Tradition's not a legal argument, I said calmly. Starting tomorrow, I'm putting up no parking signs. That would be extremely unfriendly, Meredith said, her tone icy. I build decks for people I don't like, I replied. Friendliness isn't part of the deal. Next morning, I hit the hardware store like a man on a mission. Bought 3 big aluminum signs, private property. No parking. Violators will be towed at owner's expense. Installed a motion-activated trail cam, too. Then I called a local tow company. Told them the deal. They were giddy. Apparently, they loved HOA run-ins. By that afternoon, the signs were up. By 3 p.m., 2 more cars showed up. This time I didn't wait. Snapped pics, called the tow company, set up my chair with a fresh beer. 20 minutes later, a flatbed rolled in. Woman in flip-flops came running out of nowhere. Wait, that's my car. Tow guy looked at me. I nodded. She screeched, You can't tow my car? This is community property. No, ma'am, I said, arms crossed. This is my property. You're trespassing. Meredith said. Meredith isn't the law. She was fuming. I handed her a flyer I'd printed complete with property survey in my name. Next time, don't park on land that doesn't belong to you. That week, I had 7 cars towed. One of them belonged to a board member's son. Kid came over that evening, full of attitude and varsity bravado. You cost me $300. Sounds like an expensive parking lesson. You're a jerk. Yep, but I've got an empty lot. Meredith, though she wasn't done. A few days later, a letter appeared on my mailbox. Official HOA letterhead. Looked legit, like a fake diploma. It read, Dear homeowners, in light of recent confusion regarding community overflow parking, please note that the lot adjacent to 14 Briarwood is historically used for this purpose. While not technically HOA property, we ask that you continue using it respectfully while plans are made to integrate it into our community plan. Integrate it? They wanted to absorb my lot like I was some unclaimed territory on a risk board. So I lawyered up. Been solid guy. I'd rebuilt his back porch after termites chewed it to splinters. He read the flyer and laughed. Want to go nuclear? Not yet. Just make it sting. He drafted a cease and desist so sharp it could shave wallpaper. Certified mail. CC'd to the county. Quoted 3 different state codes. We even threw in a line about misrepresentation of ownership being legally actionable. Just to rub it in, I installed a floodlight. At the next HOA meeting, I showed up with popcorn. Meredith declared, We're disappointed that one of our community members has chosen to weaponize private property. I raised my hand. Hi, weaponized property owner here. Do I need to wear camouflage out back now? Someone snorted. Someone else clapped. But Meredith didn't quit. Nope. Days later, a city inspector showed up. Clipboard, camera, neutral expression. Got a complaint about an unpermitted structure. You mean the garage built in 1974? He shrugged. Just doing my job. Then came the complaint barrage. Noise violation for sawing wood at 4 p.m. on a Saturday. Improper disposal for scrap lumber in a bin. Trash bin wasn't shut all the way. Excessive gravel displacement. Whatever that means. Every complaint was anonymous, but we both knew who was pulling the strings. So I doubled down. Set up another trail cam in the tree. Just in case. Good thing, too. One night, around 1 a.m., it caught a figure creeping up the driveway stack of flyers in hand. Same logo. Same message. Help reclaim our community space. Plastered on my mailbox. On my garage. Even on my no parking sign. Even in grainy footage, I'd recognize that stiff haircut and orthopedic strut anywhere. Meredith. On a black ops flyer mission. I called Ben. Footage, I said. Of her. At 1 a.m. On my land. He laughed so hard I thought he'd choke. We sent another cease and desist. Spicier. With screenshots. Highlighted timestamps. Even printed stills of her mid-flyer stick. This time, I mailed it directly to every HOA board member. Alan, one of the quieter board members, called me later. Look, Mason, I didn't know she was doing all that. It's getting out of hand. You think. That weekend, 3 cars showed up. Again, one blocked my garage. One parked sideways. One had a flyer on the windshield. This land belongs to the people. I called the tow truck with a vengeance. Then I stood outside and waited. Meredith watched from across the street. Arms crossed. Lip twitching. We locked eyes. I didn't blink. She walked inside. 2 weeks later, I got a notice taped to my door. Community mediation invitation. Oh, we're doing this now? I showed up to the meeting like I was presenting in court. Brought folders. Photos. Footage. Exhibit A. Slander and shenanigans. The mediator tried to keep a straight face. Meredith talked like a principal catching kids skipping recess. I pulled out the deed. There is no shared use. This is my land. Meredith twitched. Alan backed me up. The mediator sighed. Mr. Rowe, are you seeking resolution? Yep. I'm filing a formal complaint with the county. And if this harassment continues, civil action. That shut things down fast. Alan resigned a week later. 2 other members followed. The flyers stopped. The car stopped. For 2 glorious weeks, peace. Then I got a lawsuit. Defamation. Loss of standing. Interference with HOA operations. Ben nearly spit his coffee. This is a scare tactic. We'll counter. And we did. Court date came. Judge read through everything, then laughed. Literally laughed. We won. Legal fees. Apology. Meredith barred from any HOA decisions involving my land. That transcript? Public HOA record now. Weeks passed. Peace returned. One day, a 6-pack showed up on my porch with a note. Thanks for standing up to the clipboard cult. I still don't know who sent it, but I raised a cold one in their honor. And Meredith? Her house went up for sale. Word was she wanted to be closer to family. Nah, she couldn't stand the sight of defeat. She moved, and I stayed. Now I sit in my garage, working wood, drinking beer, listening to the sweet silence of no tires crunching my gravel. Because in this neighborhood, there's a new tradition. It's called Don't Park on Mason's Dirt.